In this video, I'm going to do a quick overview of my intermediate camera system. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got full-size DSLR interchangeable lens cameras, like what you see on the right of the screen here, this Canon with an 85mm lens. And then, of course, you've got, in this day and age, cell phones, which are great for the always have it with you, simple, doesn't take up any space camera option. In the intermediate zone, there are the very popular mirrorless rangefinder style compact cameras by Sony, Panasonic, Olympus, Leica, and in this case on the left, Fuji, which makes several very popular models, this one being the X-E2. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I chose the system that I did for an intermediate camera, why I even have an intermediate camera system, which may not be necessary for most people, and what I get out of it. First of all, I'll say that I'm a professional photographer. This is a very expensive rig, and I've got tons of more lenses for it that cost a lot more than the camera itself. In fact, this lens costs about as much as the camera. But it's what I do for a living, so for my studio photography and my professional location work, it's really essential. It's versatile, it's the highest possible quality, really the best of the best. And of course Canon and Nikon and all the top names are great. I happen to shoot Canon. So why don't I've got all this stuff for my business anyway, why don't I just use the Canon for everything? Well, I laid out these two cameras side by side on the table to answer that question for you. Obviously, size, and as the size implies, weight, is a big differentiating factor. This is maybe 3 times the size, this setup, especially with this big lens. But this is about 6 pounds I'm holding in my hand with this big piece of glass on the front. This is not suitable to a backpack trip or even a family car trip to the beach in most cases. Certainly not suitable to long walks in Paris on vacation, unless of course it's all about the photography. But if it's mostly about time with your spouse and your family, and eating good food and having good conversation and life experiences, something of this size is oppressive, let me tell you, because I've tried to carry it with me. So let me get this off the table and show you this guy. So I mentioned that the other end of the spectrum from the big SLR is just your cell phone camera. I'm actually taping this video with my cell phone, so I can't put that on the table for comparison. But we all know what cell phones look like, and so why get anything besides a cell phone for the pocketable end of the spectrum? Well, firstly, I'll say there's plenty of situations where my cell phone, if I don't even think I'm going to take pictures, but I want the option, the cell phone's always in my pocket, and it produces remarkably good results, at least with my iPhone. However, for hikes and trips to the beach and so forth, where I know I'm going to have maybe a great scenic shot, a family portrait opportunity, and so forth, and I will for sure want to get a good image out of it, but I just don't want to have the oppressive weight and bulk of the SLR. For me, it's worthwhile to have an intermediate system such as this mirrorless Fuji. Why? Image quality is better. Cell phones are great and they're getting better all the time, especially if you buy a high-end phone like an iPhone. But the straight-up image quality, the high ISO performance, flare control, distortion, everything is definitely better in a real camera that's not just part of your phone. Another thing is versatility. This particular camera and most of these mirrorless type camera bodies have interchangeable lenses. So you pop this off, you pop on another one. hugely valuable, especially coming from a SLR background where I'm used to being able to have the right lens for the right shot. Definitely can't be replaced with a cell phone, that versatility of interchangeable lenses. And thirdly, sort of related to my last point, this is just my personal preference, but my eye, even for snap shooting, is more of a normal lens perspective. There's sort of the classic human eye perspective, there's the wider, wide angle perspective, and then there's the telephoto perspective, and subsets of each of those. Cell phones, such as the one I'm taping this video with, all have wide angle lenses, maybe a 30mm equivalent, 35, 28, something in that range. It's great for selfies when you got to take a picture of yourself and you can only get the camera 2 feet away from your face. It's great for wide angle landscapes. And it's great if you just have a wide angle sensibility and want to get a lot in the frame. For me, and just me, it may or may not be true of you, I see and frame my photos more comfortably with a more normal perspective, sort of the standard lens. Not telephoto, but more telephoto than the wide angle that a cell phone provides. And that's another big reason for me to want an option such as the camera on the table in front of you, instead of just the cell phone for the snap shooting. I do a lot of people photography, portraiture. I like to isolate head and shoulders away from the background. You can certainly do that with a wide angle lens, but for me, for various reasons, normal lens is preferable. So that's why I've got something in this category. Let me show you my specific setup. This is a Fuji X-E2, which is not their newest body. It does have an electronic viewfinder, sort of rangefinder style off to the side. There's plenty of in-depth reviews. I won't go into the details of this particular camera. It's not their newest, but it's very versatile. And through Fuji's regular firmware updates, such as the 4.0 version I just installed, you get upgraded autofocus, you get upgraded menu systems, you get upgraded image processing, and all kinds of features incrementally without having to buy a new camera, which is a real perk with the Fujis. I can't say one way or the other for Sony or the other brands, but Fuji definitely does a good job of that. It's a very good size. It's only about 1.5 inches deep on the body. There are smaller bodies, such as ones that don't have a viewfinder. You just use the screen for composition. Maybe someday I'll get one of those. I do tend to use the screen more than the viewfinder, but this works for me. As a really valuable add-on to the camera body itself, I have this grip and base plate. You may notice there's a add-on. There you go. Add-on. This is an add-on piece that goes. There's a little room for the battery door, but it's an add-on piece with this grip. It does two things. One, it significantly increases the grip depth from about 0.5 centimeter to about maybe 2.5 centimeters, and it's really nicely rubberized. You'll notice like the body itself has this hard plastic, but the grip part on the camera and then on this added grip base plate is a really nice rubberized material, very grippy, and just right for just sort of holding very lightly between middle finger and thumb while casually carrying the camera around between shots. The other thing this base plate provides, well, two other things. One, it's just a nice hard metal surface. You just drop it, not drop it, but set it down firmly or place it on a rock or a less than perfect surface for a self-timer shot, and it protects the camera body itself. Also, it's got these dovetails built in on front and back, and what it does is it works with Arca Swiss style tripod heads. I took this off my tripod. This basically has a clamp with a channel that you turn the knob and it clamps down. Very good system, very rock solid, very fast in use. What this base plate does is without any other additional, let me loosen this up. Any other additional plates or pieces, if you want to shoot on a tripod, you just slide that into the channel, lock it up, and imagine this tripod head is on a tripod. You are really locked in and good to go for long exposures, landscapes, self-timer shots where you want to run and get into the frame with your family or whatnot. Very cool. So a very awesome add-on to the camera body itself. It is the, where's the name of it? The model number is the MHG-XE. It may work on a couple of the other models too, but it definitely works on the X-E2. Fantastic add-on. Over $100 new. I got mine for under 100 used. I have just a cheap Optec brand neoprene wrist strap on this guy. I don't have any particular brand bias. This is okay. You just see it kind of fraying at the edges, a little bit ugly, but it is very comfortable and has a little quick release here. No brand preference to suggest, but I do think a wrist strap as opposed to a neck strap is the best way to pull this in and out of bags and have it secure, but you know, not obtrusive or not overly cumbersome in use. Let me talk a little bit about the lens. I do have a couple lenses, and let me pull them out. This is an 18mm f2. It produces a 28mm wide angle perspective in 35mm terms. This is a 35mm f1.4. Produces a standard 50mm perspective. Honestly, both of these lenses are probably going on eBay because of the one that's attached to the camera. This is a 27mm f2.8 Pancake. You see very shallow. You can see I can compare significantly more shallow, less than half, maybe a third the depth of this 35, and even significantly shallower than the 18. The 27 Pancake is both mathematically and in terms of optical characteristics exactly halfway between these two lenses, between a normal and a wide lens. It's a 40mm equivalent. It's sort of in that normal lens range, which I prefer. This is wider than I ever really used, so this is going for that reason. And this is a normal lens. It has a nice wide 1.4 maximum aperture, great for portraits, but it's big. You put it on this thing and you no longer have a pocket-sized camera. It makes it less appealing if it's going to be this bulky and this heavy, still lighter than my Canon, but the bulk and the weight make it not different enough from the Canon to make me avoid just pulling the Canon out and taking a nice portrait if I'm going to have something this big. This is smaller than the Canon's normal lens, but it's not enough of that size advantage. This guy, which has almost the same perspective, sort of a normal perspective at the 27mm, 40mm equivalent, has the perspective I like, maintains almost pocketability. If you had baggy jeans, you could put this in a pocket. They call it a pancake lens for a reason, and it's, I will confess, you know, you don't get something for nothing. That bigger lens is an f1.4. This is an f2.8, which is 2 full stops slower. But honestly, when looking for a snap shooting lens that's pocketable, I'm looking as much for perspective as I am for wide maximum aperture. The thing that's going to make a nice portrait for me out and about with a pocket-sized camera like this is not going to be the ability to blow out the background completely with an f1.4. It's the ability to have a nice flattering lens perspective, which for me again is the normal lens perspective of the 40 or the 50. So for me, it's sort of got all the perspective benefits. It maintains the huge size advantage, which is the whole point of having this mid-range category between the cell phone and the big SLR, and it just looks cool and it functions. The lens itself, from all my testing so far, from the time that I've had it, which is less time than I've had these bigger lenses, indicates that it's great quality. You know, I'm not a pixel peeper, but everything I could want it has in terms of lack of distortion, good color rendition, sharpness, and so forth. I'm very, very pleased. So what I've got is a mid-size package between the cell phone and the DSLR with great quality, but still with pocketability, with the option, because of interchangeable lenses, to use a bigger lens if for some reason this is the camera I have with me, but I want to do a shallower depth of field shot or use a longer lens or a zoom or whatnot. All that is an option, but my fundamental system is pocketable with the great assets of the Pancake lens, the small overall camera body, that grip with the great additional grip characteristics, and the low profile tripod mounting that I mentioned, and a simple wrist strap. It's a great system. It won't replace my big DSLR for my professional work, unless I just happen to catch a great moment when the Fuji is the only camera I have with me. And I certainly will still keep taking cell phone photos, but this is a great mid-range camera. I'm glad I have it, and I would recommend this particular setup, or one very much like it with the Pancake lens, the grip, and the small rangefinder style body, to someone like me looking for a mid-range camera size for the benefits it offers, and with the sort of normal lens perspective that I talked about throughout this video. All right, that about wraps it up. I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit the like button. Also hit subscribe for more videos like this if you're interested. If you have a comment below about your own experience with the Fuji system or with a competing platform set up similar to this, I'd love to hear about it, since I don't have as much experience with the other brands and the other systems. I'd love to have you join the conversation. That's all for now, and we'll see you soon.